Okay, so this is the agenda for this presentation. So effectively, we'll be looking at contact centers and phone systems and the commercial implications of the service, key things you should look at when selecting a provider, some of the secrets that IT providers won't tell you, and how FCAA is different and whether we're right for you, and questions you should ask when considering which IT provider is right for you. Okay, so so unified communications is the collective term for phone systems, contact centers, and SIP phone lines. Basically encompasses how your organization communicates. So uh, tools like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Slack, these are quite common tools and fall under unified communications. Okay. So basically, 99% of the time, companies like SCAA resell uh, what we call vendors. So companies like Microsoft, 8x8, Dialpad, Mitel. Some companies do build it themselves, but this is very rare. Okay. Um, so another thing to understand is that particularly for SMEs, the vast majority of modern UC technology is moving to the cloud. And that is to say that it is provided, it is hosted in somebody else's data center, and you simply access the service. So you don't need servers on site and things like that. Okay, so here's some key things you should look at when looking at a phone system or a contact center platform. Okay, so UC platforms can be split into enterprise and non-enterprise. Advanced features are meaningless if the call quality is poor. So, long story short, is call quality is the most important consideration. And as we will go through this presentation, you'll understand, I suppose, some of the implications of this and how to make a decision as this pertains to price. Um, Yeah, so very importantly, your UC or your contact center requirements currently may not be the same as you move forward. So keeping in mind that often contract terms are between 3 and 5 years, it's very important you don't just look at what you need now, you look at or you make consideration as to what you might need in the future. Okay. Okay, so this is a really, really interesting question. Um, the idea of should I have multiple platforms that are specialized or a single platform that does everything? Now, there's no right or wrong answer to this, and just understand it, it really comes down to your requirements. So anyone that tells you that one is better than the other without looking at your requirements probably is looking to sell something they prefer to deploy rather than what is best for you. Okay, so now we get into the interesting stuff. Yeah. So this is interesting. So make no mistake of it, that most suppliers have a preferred product that they sell. They will always have one and generally will have one or two. So often this is because they don't have the expertise to deploy a broad range of products. These require generally specialist engineers, certifications, and the like. So it's quite expensive to support a lot of uh, platforms. Um, so I suppose the difference with us is yes, we support six. You can check the website to see them all. But this is it's unified communications, contact centers, and phone systems is really a really specialized field within IT. And yeah, this is something that we've invested heavily in and have a variety of solutions depending on your requirements. So this is a big one. Okay, so you very rarely, you generally get what you pay for when it comes to unified communications, particularly contact center. There are very, very cheap options out there. In fact, there are free options, um, and they generally claim to have the same features, and in many respects they do, especially the basic, the core features, right? But the difference between an enterprise and a non-enterprise solution call quality. And I think everybody's experienced really poor call quality. And I can absolutely assure you that the most advanced features or the cheapest price are meaningless if when you make a call or set up a video conference, no one can hear each other. This is a really important thing. So just to be clear, SCAA, we only provide enterprise grade solutions. We support about 6 at the moment. Um, if you are looking for a really, really cheap, nasty solution, we're probably not the right provider for you. Okay. Yeah. So I touched on this earlier, but really understand that unified comms is a specialization, particularly in the contact center space, but also in the PBX and phone system space as well. I won't get into that too much detail, but yeah, something to be aware about SCAA is if you are looking for a contact center or a phone system, this is the vast majority of the clients that we have are using us for this type of service. Okay, so here's an interesting one as well. So often, well, it's almost a trope within the IT community, but basically, when there's an issue with the phone system, the company who's supporting the phone system will blame the internet provider, and the internet provider will blame the phone system provider. This is almost a cliche in the industry, very common. Um, yeah, this is not something that SCAA does. We investigate every issue very thoroughly, and often we in fact manage both internet and phone systems or contact centers for our clients. And actually, this is normally quite desirable, just to avoid that blame game that often happens, and having that single throat to choke, as they say. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so these are questions that you really should ask. How many vendors do you work with? So when talking to a provider, if they only work with one or two, that should be a concern. Okay, and I'll explain that a little bit further. Um, Yes, always get the detail about why they recommend a particular solution. One of the red flags that does come up a lot is a IT company recommending a solution or a particular brand without asking any questions about your requirements and what you're looking to achieve. That's generally a pretty obvious sign that this is not a real specialization for them. Yes, escalation matrix. So you will be wedded to your IT provider for between 3 and 5 years. You need to know what happens when the person you're talking to, if they move on. So account managers and salespeople and pre-sales people are very transient. You always need to know who the one up from them and the one up from them all the way to the CEO or owner. And if you don't get this, that's a huge red flag. Yes, so this comes up a fair bit. Uh, the majority of small and medium-sized businesses are moving away from handsets. This allows this allows staff to work remotely much more easily, and what they do is they just use a headset. Now, something to consider though is IT companies like SCAA, there's they make money from selling handsets. So if the company you're talking to is recommending handsets, really understand why, because often it's just so they can make more money. It's quite a common one, in fact. Yes, can you get a demo or a free trial? Very important. And of course, reference customers. Obviously, you can see some logos on the website, on our website, but we can make them some of them available. You always want to hear reference customers, particularly in this space. Okay. Yes, that's a big one. Assumptions without understanding your specific requirements. That always leads to problems. Yeah, so you can Google Unified Communications Gartner Magic Quadrant. Um, generally speaking, not generally speaking, any brand within the Gartner Magic Quadrant is an enterprise grade solution. Um, Brands like 3CX, Asterisk, Digium, these are non-enterprise grade products. Yeah, so again, with the move to hosted environments, you can generally get shorter terms than 5 years. So 3 is the standard, but you can get even less. But yeah, if they only offer you a 5-year option, that should be a bit of a concern. Yeah, so something to be aware of, and we'll get a little bit technical, is when it comes to voice, bandwidth is the bandwidth requirements is negligible. It's about 100 kilobytes a second. Um, to give you an idea, a YouTube video might pull down 1 or 2 megabytes. So if they tell you that you need to upgrade your internet to deploy the solution, that look, there are certain circumstances where that's true, but that's quite rare, generally speaking. Okay, so that concludes the presentation. Thank you.